Hello, this is Faith at Faith and Books. I realize that I am really booked up through the end of December. I'm recuperating from being exhausted from Christmas, and then I have tomorrow's Friday, right? That's going to be a prep day, and then Saturday we're having people over for Hanukkah, and then Sunday my grandson is being baptized, and we're having a big reception here, maybe 39, 40 something people. So I have to go get the food and clean the house again and just all sorts of stuff for that. And then on New Year's, then there's New Year's Eve is coming up, and then Monday's a break day. And then New Year's Day, my extended family is having a big kind of holiday party, a brunch at 11 on New Year's Day. So anyway, I just feel like I can't wait till all the socializing stops. Not that I don't enjoy it, but it is tiring. I'm really exhausted today. But I thought I would just go through real quick the books I've read this year. I'm doing this super quick. I've read 52 so far. Oh, wait again. I've read more than that. I've read 54, but I haven't recorded it in my list here. I'm going to go through really quick and just say like a sentence, see if I can do this, a sentence about each book that I read. Okay, these are books read in 2019. 1, The Spirit of the Border by Zane Grey, famous Western writer. It was a retelling of this massacre that happened with Native Americans. He rewrote history. It was not accurate, and he made the Native Americans look bad. It was pretty, and he's a good writer, but it was very much a work of its time in its attitude towards Native Americans. 2, The History of the Ancient World by Susan Weisbauer. Excellent read, lots and lots of facts, but she's really good at summarizing complicated situations and making it readable, and she's got short chapters that so make it feel like it moves along pretty quick. I learned that ancient history was just one battle after another, people just trying to take over other people's territory. That's what it was. Then I read The Warden by Anthony Trollope. That was a reread. I loved it. Then I read a book, Hittite Warrior by Joanne Williamson. That is like a middle school history book, living history book, set during the time, like in biblical times, in Old Testament times. Very interesting. It really takes you back to that time period and all those battles. That was a reread. I thought of it because of the Susan Weisbauer ancient history book. It triggered the memory, and so I went and read that. And it's an enjoyable book, though it's for middle schoolers. Then I read Cousin Kate by Georgette Heyer, or Hare. Not my favorite. It was a little too silly. It was trying to be gothic, and I don't think she quite did it. Wasn't one of my favorites. Then I read Barchester Towers by Anthony Trollope. That was another reread, and I enjoyed it very much. Then number 7 was A Lady's Life in the Rocky Mountains by Isabella Bird. That was my first one by her. That was really fascinating. But she also was really, really prejudiced against Native Americans. I remember that. But it was really interesting. She traveled all by herself all through Colorado right after it had become a state. Really interesting. It's her memoirs. Number 8 was Republican Like Me by Ken Stern. This was an interesting story. It came out just after Trump got elected. Ken Stern was the CEO and something else at NPR, and he realized he lived in this liberal bubble in Washington, D.C., where he didn't know any Republicans, so he decided to sort of be an investigative reporter and go to places like evangelical churches or places where he knew he could find Republicans and Trump supporters, just to get to know them better. It was about a man trying to be tolerant and trying to treat his fellow citizens with respect. So it was an interesting book. Number 9, Dr. Thorne by Anthony Trollope. That was the only one in the Barset Chronicles that I had a little bit of trouble getting into, but once I got into it, I enjoyed it. Number 10 was Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. So this was in February. I remember I was reading it because there was a Fantasy February that the bloggers that I go to, the readers, the book blogs, or always talk about in February. They read fantasy. And one of my favorite book bloggers has a blog called Howling Frog Books. She's incredible. And she loves Diana Wynne Jones. So I thought, oh, I've never read her. I'll read this book. This is her most famous. I was underwhelmed. Now, I'm not a fantasy person, so that's, it already had a strike against it. But I just thought it had like a lot of little cliche things, but nothing, I don't know. It just didn't grab me at all. And then I tried to watch the movie afterwards, and the movie's just bizarre. The animated movie is just so bizarre. It doesn't even follow the book, which is pretty bizarre. Anyway, after that, I read We Free Men by Terry Pratchett, which I actually enjoyed. I really liked that, even though I'm not much of a fantasy sci-fi person. He's really witty and a very good writer. So that was fun. I finally read something by Terry Pratchett. He was one of those authors I've always heard about but never read. Number 12 was the book The Light of Christ by Father Thomas Joseph White, O.P., Order of Preachers. That was an excellent, excellent book. If you're interested in an intelligent introduction or explanation, pretty thorough explanation of Catholic belief, you can't go wrong with this. This guy writes really well, very systematic. I think he was an atheist and he converted and then he became a priest. He's just a brilliant, brilliant book, The Light of Christ by Father Thomas Joseph White. I highly recommend it. Number 13 was Death in the Stocks by Georgette Heyer. So this is when I decided I was going to read all of Georgette Heyer's murder mysteries. So that was the first one. It was enjoyable. Then I read a classic, The Life of Moses by Saint Gregory of Nyssa. He was an early church father, and he wrote this book called The Life of Moses. The first part of the book is recounting the life of Moses, which was kind of a slog, but then the second part, he analyzes Moses as sort of both what was going on theologically in the story of Moses, but also how he's sort of an archetype for Christ. So it turned out to be a really enjoyable, illuminating read. It made me like St. Gregory of Nyssa. I don't know how you say it, Nyssa. Anyway, then the next book I read, number 15, was Helena by Evelyn Waugh. That was excellent. Really, really good book about the mother of Constantine. Number 16 was Behold, Here's Poison, Georgette Heyer, very enjoyable murder mystery. 17 was They Found Him Dead by Georgette Heyer, also I really liked They Found Him Dead. I remember really enjoying that one. And then number 18 was Framley Parsonage by Anthony Trollope. It was sort of like the quintessential Trollope Victorian novel, very enjoyable. Number 19 was A Blunt Instrument by Georgette Heyer. I'm trying to, I don't even remember that one. I guess I liked it. I'd have to go back and look at a synopsis of it or something to remember. Number 20 was No Wind of Blame by Georgette Heyer. And I'm having trouble remembering that one too. Number 21, I remember Envious Casca by Georgette Heyer. That takes place at Christmas time, and it's one of those locked room dramas. And I had read it before. I think that might be one of my favorite of her murder mysteries. Then, because that reminded me of it, number 22 was Hercule Poirot's Christmas by Agatha Christie. I think I was reading this in April or something, but I went back because it was the same sort of locked room mystery. Let's see, and then number 23 was Little Breeches. That's when I started the Little Breeches series by Ralph Moody. Those are kind of like the masculine version of the Little House books. And only it's later, it's in the early 1900s it happens. He's out in Colorado. It's really a nice series. So that was Little Breeches, that was 23. 24, Duplicate Death by Georgette Heyer. I can't even go into what these books were about because they're all jumbled together in my head. Number 25, Detection Unlimited. Oh, I like that one. I remember enjoying that one. Georgette Heyer. And 26, Footsteps in the Dark. That was a fun one. I really enjoyed that one. And then 27, Why Shoot a Butler? I'm trying to remember. That was a reread for me. And I vaguely remember the characters and stuff and the setting, but I don't really remember who did it. Anyway, number 28, The Unfinished Clue by Georgette Heyer. I'd have to go and read a synopsis of that. I don't remember it. Number 29, Penhallow by Georgette Heyer. I really enjoyed Penhallow. So many people had told me that it was their least favorite of hers because it's not a true murder mystery. You know who does the murder. And it was too dark, and it is an extremely dark book. I thought it was brilliant. I really, really enjoyed Penhallow by Georgette Heyer. Number 30, Man of the Family by Ralph Moody. So in the first book, the father dies, and in the second book, he's like, how old is he? He's 11 or something, and he becomes the man of the family. That's all about, all that Little Britches series is about trying to get out of grinding poverty. Just, the guy had an amazing work ethic. He was always struggling to escape poverty. Okay, number 31 was Resisting Throwaway Culture by Charles Comacy. That is a book that I gave all my kids. It's about ethics, having a consistent life ethic. So a nonfiction kind of philosophical book. Excellent. Then I read, number 2 was Beauvallet by Georgette Heyer. I had heard about this book for forever. I finally read it. It's just over the top, swashbuckler type stuff, to the point where I was laughing out loud because it had gotten kind of ridiculous. I didn't really, so far in that year, reading Cousin Kate and Beauvallet, not counting her murder mysteries, I was kind of disappointed by the period books, the historical period books, which she's known for her Regency romances, so she does the historical bit really, really well, but I was reading books I hadn't read by her yet, and they weren't so good. Anyway, number 33, Letter to a Suffering Church by Bishop Robert Marin. That's a slight book, but it's just him trying to comfort Catholics about the whole sexual abuse crisis and rallying them to stick with the church and fight the evil within. Well-written letter. It was encouraging. Number 34, The Home Ranch by Ralph Moody. I think that was when he was he helped be a cattle drover or something when he was young. Number 35, The Nonesuch by Georgette Heyer. So this was a reread, and this is a typical Regency romance, and is excellent. It's really funny, lively characters, well written. You love the tension between the two main characters. Really good, The Nonesuch. I like that one. Number 36, Mary Emma and Company by Ralph Moody. They move back to Boston where they're trying to make a living. Mary Emma is his mother. 37, The Fields of Home by Ralph Moody. That's when he goes to live with his grandfather on his farm in Maine. Let's see. Number 38, The Last Chronicle of Barset by Anthony Trollope. So I had listened on audio in 2018, the very end, The Small House at Allington. So I didn't bother to reread that one, but now I've read the whole series. So this was the last one. I loved the last book. I love the way he tied up everything. Really well written. Really love Anthony Trollope, and I want to read more in 2020. Then number 39, The Three Taps by Father Ronald Knox. Father Ronald Knox was a mystery writer, and he actually was included in collections of short stories with Agatha Christie and Dorothy L. Sayers and those. That's his second mystery I've read by him. His first one's set on a golf course or something. This one, The Three Taps, refers to, this is back in the 20s or 30s, and it's how they used gas to heat the rooms, and people used to commit suicide a lot and stuff with it. It was a locked room murder mystery too. It was pretty good. Let's see, number 40, Shaking the Nickel Bush by Ralph Moody. He's trying to make a living out west again. 41, The Dry Divide. He's trying to go into, he's trying to get settled and go into business while he's in, where was he? I think he was in Kansas. Number 42 was The Nourishing Homestead by Ben Hewitt. That was the memoirs of a family who were homesteading, in current time, up in, I think in Maine. Were they in Maine or Vermont? Oh, I can't remember now. But I think I talked about that one in a previous video. And then I get into number 43. This is when I get into Victober, which is when I started my YouTube channel. So I read The Unmasking of Oscar Wilde by Joseph Pierce. I read Callista by John Henry Newman, which is an excellent book. The Picture of Dorian Gray. A Horse of a Different Color. Wasn't Victober. That was the last book. Is that the last book? That's the last book in the Little Britches series by Ralph Moody. That was number 46. Number 47 was my classic spin, Antigone, Oedipus Rex, and Electra. Number 47 was De Profundis by Oscar Wilde. Number 49 was Eden's Outcast, which was the first book in A Year with Louisa May. Number 50 was The Four Loves by C.S. Lewis. Number 51 was A Generation of Sociopaths by Bruce Cannon Gibney. That was a really hard read. Number 52 was A Day of Pleasure by Isaac Bashevis Singer. And then the last two books that I've read so far this year. Oh, come on, computer, don't be so slow. I'm trying to talk fast. The last, it's not coming up. Isn't that silly? Well, let's see. It was, here we go. It was A Time of Gifts, On Foot to Constantinople from the Hook of Holland to the Middle Danube by Patrick Leigh Fermor. Excellent, excellent, excellent book, and I want to read more by him as well. Excellent travel memoir. And then I finished Emil and the Detectives, which is a children's book set in Germany in 1929. It's a cute little book. And probably before the year's over, I'll finish Little Women. I'm halfway through that, and I don't know what else I'll finish reading. But that's it. So I think I'll have read 55 books, most likely, by the end of the year. And that's it. And my next Classics Club spin is The Tempest. But I'm going to do that in my January TBR. So anyway, so that was what I read in 2019, and I look forward to reading in 2020. And I hope I did that quick enough and it wasn't boring. Talk to you later. Bye.